Well, well, well. Look who's back for another round of But the Book Was Better. Or was it? Welcome to Pages to Screen, the show that answers the age-old question, was the adaptation worth it? Strap in! It's time to dive into the thrilling world of did they really just do that? We're going to tear a masterpiece into masterpieces, dissecting adaptations to our beloved screen. Now, for today's scrutiny, this is From Page to Screen with your host, Timothy Imholt.
So Red was a movie and a sequel a while back. It was a comic book adaptation called Retired Extremely Dangerous. Kind of cute. You have a variety of action stars. You got Bruce Willis, you've got John Malkovich, you got Helen Mirren, who's not normally an action movie person, but she works in this case. We'll get to that in a second. It was originally a comic book. It's a three-part comic book based on the CIA or whoever it was he worked for Frank Moses not being happy with all the information he still had and want to come after him. And it was really just about Frank. It was sort of a thing where they were like, okay, let's just clean up the mess of the Cold War. And it was about really that, how do we deal with the outcome of the people who are still hanging around that played active roles in the Cold War on jobs we don't really want to talk about very much. The movies went a whole different direction. The movies were like, okay, let's send the young kids after that are doing the job now after the old guard who really knew what they were doing, and let's see how that comes out, right? So basically, the new movie is about, or the movie, two movies are about old people beating the crap out of young people. Um, Two performances in this stand out. Bruce Willis is predictable, right? You know what you get out of Bruce. You love him. He's a was an action movie guy from the get-go. Well, not from the get-go, but for sort of Die Hard on, it was all you got out of Bruce was uh action movies. It was a possible exception of certain ones like Hudson Hawk. But this is more comedy than it is action. There is action in it, but the action is comic book campy, which it's you get what you get. A lot of fun though. I was watching it with my daughter, and she was like, "Okay, Frank is good. He's a good assassin. He's a good killer. He can take care of himself." Right? Then they introduced John Malkovich, and she's like, "Okay, he's crazy, but he's always right." And she thought the pig was hilarious. But the pig had a bunch of weapons stored in it. It looked like a stuffed animal, but here he is carrying his stuffed animal full of large caliber weapons. Um, and I kept telling him like, "Oh, just wait. There's a better assassin coming up. The best assassin ever to walk the planet, at least in the modern era, is coming up. You're gonna love this person." And she's like, "Who's better than Willis and Malkovich?" Well, a little tiny Helen Mirren, and she just about fell over out of her chair. They're like, they made the best assassin ever a grandma. And she didn't believe it till she saw Helen Mirren in action. Then she's like, okay, Victoria wins every time, right? So the movie is certainly not serious. The sequel is not serious at all either, but it is one of the most fun action comedy twofers you're going to find. I kind of wish they'd done a third one. It just was so much fun. But the transition from script from a comic book to movie, they took the comic book and well, great, we'll keep the name Frank Moses and the concept of the Cold War, and that's pretty much it. Outside of that, it's completely different. There is no similarity in between the two, but the movie just works. It's if you go into it thinking, okay, this is just about having fun and being hilarious, then it's great. In the second one, they bring on a scientist who's been stuck in a psych ward for 30 years that they have to work with to stop something from happening. Turns out the crazy scientist that's been stuck in the psych ward forever is Anthony Hopkins, who has some experience playing roles like this, right? So he does crazy really well. In this case, he's a crazy physicist, which I can kind of relate to being a physicist myself. But again, great fun. So suspend disbelief on the gunfight, suspend disbelief on the fact that they never run out of ammunition. Just let that part go. The science that Anthony Hopkins talks about, not based in reality, just not. And that's fine. You don't really care because it's a lot of fun. But enjoy the film. If you pick up the comic book, enjoy that. But you are not going to find too many similarities in between the two. Everybody have a great day.